Hi, in this episode, I got the opportunity to sit down with Maurice Israel. He's a psychic medium who I've known for many, many years and wanted to be able to share with you one of the things that blew my mind. At one point, he shared something that went, it just stopped me in my tracks because he said that in every death he's witnessed, and he was a hospice nurse, there was always someone there to greet that person on the other side. He said he doesn't tell the families because it would freak him out. However, I was mind blown. It was awesome to hear and to continue on with our conversation, but that stood out for me. If it's something that's interested you, you're interested in spirituality or some other type of energetic growth, this episode is going to get you.
Welcome to the Hemp Del Soul podcast. All health, no high. Here's your host, Mary Lisa Lawless.
Hello, and welcome. Today we have a really amazing guest. Been trying to get him on here for months, but he is so busy that it has been a challenge to get him scheduled. I would like to introduce you to a friend of mine who I love his work professionally. I love him personally, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, Maurice Israel.
Hi, everyone, and I'm happy to finally be here with Marilisa. It is true, it's been a while, but I'm looking forward to the podcast today, and let's see where this takes us.
Okay. So part of what I do as a trauma therapist is that because of the pharmaceutical industry, I started looking at all the energy healers and differences in how people heal. So prior to referring people to pharmaceuticals, I look at all the different types of energy healing and different modalities in the world. And there's way too many for us to even get into, but you have a particular specialty that I truly like looking at, watching, hearing about, and learning about. So today I would like for you to just introduce yourself a little bit and talk about what you do as a mental medium, because that is your big calling in this world. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm a registered nurse by trade. That is what I went to school and trained in. And through being a registered nurse and working in the hospital systems, I became very aware of energy healing. Is where it all began, to be honest. I started working with things like Reiki and then working with some other modalities, which then over time became mediumship, I guess you could say. You could look at it that way, because my abilities just began to develop and come to the surface. And then through that, I won't say the end result, but where I am now, the main thing that I work with is the mediumship within all the work that I do, whether it's healing or psychic work, regardless.
Can you describe what that is? What's the difference between psychic, medium, our intuition, just the things that we might know intuition, like our sixth sense, ESP, that kind of stuff is what we grew up hearing. But tell our audience what that actually is.
Right, so intuition, everyone walking around has intuition. It's just something that you're naturally born with. And it's just those feelings that you get on a daily basis. Good, bad, I'm not sure about this, but those initial feelings that you get when you walk into different situations, when you meet new people, or just if you're thinking about a project or something you're trying to get a feel, is it something good or something bad? We always get some type of feeling that serves as a gauge for us to let us know really if we're heading in the right direction or wrong direction. The challenge, though, is to learn to pay attention to those signs that we get and to follow them, because they never lead us the wrong way if we pay attention to the initial feelings that we have. Now, when you look at your psychic ability, that's really what I look at as an enhancement of your intuition, because it's the energy connecting with others, and then you're able to put what you're feeling, sensing, or being made aware of just really into words. And what you're feeling, is it good, is it bad? Do I feel something going on now, something going on later? But it's really just those things that we have to practice over time and work with. Many people look at psychic ability as a blending of energies of one person to another, is how they see it. Because you can look at someone's energy field, and based on the energy field, you can pick up information from them over time. But I really think it's much simpler than that, because when you work with your intuition, you already begin to connect with people. you already begin to get a feeling. If you begin to put those feelings into words, you're beginning to work psychically because you're connecting with them energetically. So to me, it's not this huge puzzle that some teams think it is, or really fear. A lot of people fear it, to be honest. It's much simpler than that. It's really just something that we're born with and we all have. Now, the mental mediumship takes it a step further. When we speak of mental mediumship, we're really talking about connection to the souls of those that have crossed over from this world to the spirit world to heaven, however people want to refer to it as. And I have to say, I have to be honest with you, I was not a person in the beginning who was like on board and like, oh, this is something I can do and this is amazing. Not at all. I was the exact opposite. I literally ran from this for a number of years and literally ran, which there's a whole story behind that also. But it wasn't something that I just took on board, you know, based upon just religious upbringing and just how people talk about these kinds of things in the world. But over time, after studying it and learning about it, like really studying it for a long time now and really working with it, you come to understand that there is a continuation that takes place of life in the soul, and we are able to communicate. And it is something that's not as difficult as people make it out to be. And honestly, it's really healing for the majority of people if they're open to it. Because those that communicate with us really come back with usually the most amazing messages of love, you know, love, guidance, healing. It's very positive once people get out of their own minds and their own restrictions around what they think it is, as opposed to what it really is.
And that's something you mentioned just in passing there is about religion. There's a lot of people that have really strong beliefs against things like this, thinking that this isn't spirit led or that there's something else going on. What was it like for you to be able to tell people like family or friends, or how did you introduce this idea to people that like, what are you talking about?
It's an absolute nightmare for me at the beginning. I'm raised Southern Baptist. And then on top of being raised Southern Baptist, spent a portion of my education in Catholic school. So that was already a little bit of the back and forth there. Now, the friends that I had when this all really first took off for me that were about religion looked at this as the quote unquote the devil's work. And I was like, oh, here we go again. But I couldn't say anything to them because initially that was my belief as well. And it took me years to move past this. And honestly, what happened was, when it started to really show up for me, I did a lot of prayer work around it and things like that to make it okay for me to let go and just connect. And then let's put it this way, I was so afraid of it. When I got my guidance where I was going to go to learn and study about it, it wasn't even in this country. I left the country to go and study. That's where I was guided. Now, years later, after working with it for so many years and with so many people, I've just found there's such a healing quality to working with it for people. They don't necessarily have to be like people that jump up and down and say, oh, I'm a huge believer, but just someone who's open to the communication that's coming in from their loved ones or those that have passed over. And just for them to be open to it, because that's all it is. It's not about me trying to convince anyone of anything. I'm just the instrument in between. I'm the one who's listening and feeling and just saying, well, I have this person here. I'd like to tell you this, or this, and I want to tell you this. And then I leave it with the recipient of the session, and they do with it as they please. It's not about trying to force anything on anyone.
Right. So you make it clear that you're the conduit, that you're not. How did you learn to differentiate your own thoughts and what you thought people might want to hear, and what you're actually, messages that are actually originating from the spirit? How did you know the difference between, okay, well, this is what they need to hear, and how did you know that this was spirit or that this was the relatives, friends, family that have been, that are on the other side?
And that takes a little bit of training. I mean, sometimes in the beginning, especially when you start to get those thoughts that are just simply not yours. Like I said, I wasn't someone who was comfortable with this. I was someone who was very much like, okay, I hear voice. What is that? And I'm like in my head thinking to myself, yeah, I can't really tell too many people about this. But then as it continued to grow, and then the spirit world became much more apparent in my life, like showing up, feeling like me actually being able to see them at times and becoming aware of them being around me. times to someone who might be nearby and things like that. The real clarification, really, of the communication came through after I began to really study and work with it, and we do something called sitting in the power. And really, that's just sitting to allow yourself to move into a place where your energy connects with those in the other world or spirit or to your soul, however you want to see it. And what it helps you to do is to attune to the vibrations of those coming in. So the more that you attune, which really you're harmonizing through attunement, aren't you? So that you learn to work with the energy in this way, those in the other world that come in at different vibrations. I mean, you have to think about it. If you have the lovely little grandmother who used to sit at home and bake cookies all day and like knit blankets, and you run in the house and hug her, she's the quiet little lovely one, right? That everyone wants to be around, but she's got a nice, quiet, beautiful energy. But what if you have the crazy uncle who was like the one who like drank all weekend and partied and hung out, and that's a totally different energy. And as a medium, as you begin to work with the energy, you learn to attune to the energy of whoever's coming in. So you're able to work with the energy of someone nice and quiet, like the grandmother, or someone just over the top and outrageous, like some of the people that, that's how they were on Earth. So they come in when they communicate with us. So it's amazing.
So do you think that they do that so that you can identify that, hey, this is who it is that I have? Can you relate to this energy? Can you relate to this personality? I mean, is that part of how you connect with somebody that would be in front of you for a session?
Absolutely. Because the way you have to look at it is, if say that we're talking about the one who partied, the uncle or cousin who partied on the weekend, and I said, I'll have this gentleman who comes in and he's sitting in a church pew and he's very quiet and he's telling you like he loves you very much and da-da-da. You're going to look at me and be like, I don't know who the heck that is. But they differentiate through their experiences here on Earth and through that level of consciousness, which is connected to the soul when they cross over. Those are the memories they bring back to us. That's the consciousness that we connect with, soul to soul, the reality of what they were living when they were here, because that's what those who are here would connect with. Because if you change up totally and say, oh, they're something totally opposite, the person in front of you is like, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. And it would just go from there.
So we have things like, one of the things that would probably be more common verbiage that we've heard is like clairvoyant. Can you talk about how you see things or what that actually means to be clairvoyant or any of what we call the clairs? And how do you see things? How do you hear things? Or
for me personally, I see things rather clearly, almost like I'm seeing you, depending on what it is. So say that I'm working with someone from the spirit world. Every now and then, I may get a glimpse of someone from spirit. But I don't see them as I'm seeing you as necessarily as solid as you. It's almost like a hologram in a sense. But the hologram is defined enough that I can make out things like hair color, sometimes eye color, sometimes the build of the person. And then with that, they also show you past memories. Like I may see something about a time that you went with them down to the lake when everyone was fishing and everyone's jumping in and out of the water. Like they literally show us those scenes from their lives, times that people have in common. So, and a lot of people are very clairvoyant. They're able to see so much of what goes on. But the main clair that really works with these abilities really is the clairsentience.
okay.
Their feeling.
What does that mean?
Their feeling. And that is just most people that work with these types of abilities, whether psychic or mediumship, the feeling is the strongest faculty for the majority, if not all. Because one, they learn to interpret when someone's there or when someone's not, especially for mental mediumship. And then they learn to interpret things like personality, because like I said earlier, you have to feel she's, a lovely grandmother as opposed to like the chaotic, crazy partying cousin or uncle. Feelings that we get to help us and also to help us with our communication. And then you have to understand as well, if you're communicating with someone from spirit, from the other world, and someone else comes in, there's another feeling that would go to that person as well. But that's why it's important to, in the early stages, if possible, to learn to work with those feelings and the attunement we talked about a bit earlier, just so you can kind of differentiate how one person feels to another.
Right. How do you, So part of this is about offering healing to people when they're in this grief place and trying to find connections. When you're sitting with a person, you might see things that are going on in their own life, and someone from the spirit world is coming through to give them a warning or to give them things. How do you handle hearing things that might be not so like, oh, I love you, I miss you, and I'm good? How is it that you handle being able to say those things if you're seeing something or
Right,
hearing or feeling
right.
something
Well,
from the other world?
I think everything's about how we say what we say. Because even with communication from the spirit world, think about it. You could have someone who's like, oh my God, I have someone here, and they jump up in the air and they're very dramatic, and you scare the heck out of the person you're working with. But because they really don't come through to us like that, to be honest. They come through in a way which is usually very calming, but it makes us aware that they're there. Now, do they sometimes give someone a heads up about things or an idea that something may be going on? Absolutely. But we just have to be very aware of how we say what we say. Because you may say to someone, I have someone here, like your grandmother may be here with me, but she's making me aware there's an issue in the house. And I know that if you are paying attention to like the foundation at the back of the home, there's a leak with water, things like, they tell us all kinds of things.
Okay.
Because once they leave this world and come back, they're around us all the time, essentially, especially when we think of them. But I really feel from my own experience, it's really just to provide us with the guidance, the wisdom, and the love that most of us are missing. And then absolutely the healing part is the biggest part of all of this that we're working with.
Right. So are there programs that you work with? I mean, the Forever Family Foundation, is that one?
I'm with a group that's really amazing. It's a not-for-profit group
Okay.
that works really with grief. And what they do is to become a medium with them, they have a pretty extensive, challenging certification process.
Okay.
And you have to go through this process to become one of their griefs. But the thing that's beautiful about this organization is that not only are there mediums working with the organization in regard to healing, but you also have therapists and scientists and research. And the thing that's lovely is the gentleman at the top, Mr. Bob Ginsberg, the one who created it along with his wife. Absolutely lovely to work with. They want nothing but the best for everyone that comes into contact with them in the organization. And the grief retreats that we do, because it's a combination of everything, everybody gets something. Like when you see people walk in at the beginning of the weekend so heavy and so down and so distraught, and then you see the difference, and then when they leave, you know that a shift has taken place. So whether they got from the therapeutic side, whether they got something from learning about more of the research, whether they got something from the medium, because multiple mediums work these events. Like there are usually at least 4 of us.
Oh.
Yeah, so they wrote, the people who are there as attendees will rotate through with the mediums as well, in addition to the other parts of the program that have been set up with the therapists and the researchers. And we all do sessions with them. So what will happen is, say that I'm in one group of like 15 or 16 people, I'll just sit and go quiet and do like a small gallery. And whoever comes in and connects with me from spirit, I find who I'm within the room, provide them with the feedback, provide them with what's going on. I mean, just amazing stuff. And we have one coming up that's going to be in the near future, which it's healing for parents only. So it's just, so that's going to be a little bit intense, but lovely just the same, because the healing hopefully will just be amazing during the week.
I was going to say that's probably the toughest group to work with, is parents who've lost children.
Yeah, of course. Because I mean, like anything else in life, most parents just never have a thought of losing their children, or that's the last thing that you'd ever want to happen. So the grief that is connected to that, I just think it's unfounded in so many ways. And working through that on a daily basis, which, any type of grief you have, especially with loss, the journey is ongoing. It's not
Right.
a journey that you say, oh, I'm suffering today and tomorrow I'll be okay. No, it's about how we work with to make things a bit more bearable.
So behind it all, it sounds as if mediumship is really just an opportunity to offer solace to people that are here still living in this world. And whatever their relationship was, whether they were able to finish or heal or say goodbye, it sounds like this offers them an opportunity then to even further their own healing, to process their grief. Are there other parts of mediumship that aren't about spirit, that aren't about connecting to specific people? Do you ever connect with dogs or pets or anything
Yeah,
like that?
animals do have souls. I won't say
Okay.
that's my specialty, but I will say that sometimes during a session, a loved one's animal, a pet that was loved by the family, does come through, and you're aware of them coming into the session, and you just communicate that to the person who's there. Because I have to say to you, sometimes people love their animals more than they love people around them.
Yes. Very true. And it's a huge loss for some people,
It really,
to have lost their pets.
it
Um,
really. Sorry, go ahead.
do you do you actually see spirit? You said it's like a hologram, but are there ever ones that come in that people, they don't want to hear from these people? They don't want to, they didn't like them very much on this side. They don't want to hear from them on the other side. How do you handle that kind of, oh, I don't want to hear that?
And it does happen from time to time. Like I do gallery work, where I'll do work locally here, especially right now. And
And what does that mean?
what that means is that I set up sessions where I'll invite people to come to the galleries. We'll set up a specific evening. We rent a space. People pay to come for an evening to just see if their loved one may come in or come through.
Got it.
And yes, some people do sometimes. That's happened a few times where you start off something and you say to someone, well, I have a lady here. I feel like she's your mom. And the person will look at you and say, I hated my mother. I don't want to hear from her. And it does happen from time to time. The way I handle it is, well, would you give me a moment just to see what she wants to communicate to you? Is that okay? I said, because, holding on to things like anger and not allowing forgiveness to take place really is like poison within your own body. It does nothing but harm you in the long run. So would you be open to just hearing her message, and then I'll just move on and allow them to see if I can get them to at least open to that communication? Because that the more we hold on to hatred, the more we hold on to those past experiences that were damaging to us, they somehow usually come back and harm us in some way, whether it's physical, emotional, they do hold us back. So, but all we can do is our best as a medium. You can only do your best and offer to them what
Yeah.
we to do. And then if they're open to it, we give the message and maybe a few pieces of information to validate, and then keep moving on.
Obviously people that reach out to you have some beliefs in what you do. What do you say to people that are like, their friend dragged them in to see you, but they don't believe any of this stuff, and this is all, woo-hoo, woo-woo craziness? How do you convert people, so to speak, to like, well, no, this is real? And is it, I mean, people that really have no clue what this is, and they are the doubting Thomases of the world.
I don't try to, first off, my goal is never to convert anybody. I never look at this as that. As much as I believe in it, it's like anything else. Everyone has a choice as to what they're going to be open to or not open to. All I would say to people, especially when they come to the galleries, because you have people that are avid believers, and then you have others that were dragged there a lot of times. But the communication itself is what opens them up or not, depending upon where they are in their journey. Because there are just certain things that there is no way I could ever know about someone's loved one that I've just met you. Like I've just met you. How would I know how she died?
Right.
How was connected to her? How would I know her favorite places to go? How would I know what you did with her towards the end of her life? To assist her or to be with her. So there are just certain things that there's no way I could. So it's up to them if they're open and they're in that part of their journey where they're like, you know what, there's a possibility this could be real, and they open up. That's fine. If not, all I can do is communicate what I'm receiving,
Right.
place love and healing, and just keep it moving.
And I think that that's the most important piece, that is that whatever you do, you're coming from a place of love.
Absolutely.
And that offering healing to people is the most important part of this journey. There's enough suffering in the world. So trying to alleviate one's suffering, as you started, you had said you were in hospice. You got to see both sides. You got to see somebody transitioning. You got to deal with the families and their grief. And it sounds as if your journey has always been to offer some peace to people.
Yeah, because, you know, the unfortunate part with hospice, I'll say to you, is when I did hospice for over 20 years. And for a part of that time, I was management in the units, running units, and still at the bedside. And I was at bedside for a lot of that time as well. And the thing that's unfortunate for me was that within that situation, you can't share with people sometimes what you're seeing. Because I think in some ways it would help some people.
Right.
Because a lot of people have this belief that, you know, when you die, you're gone. Now, as a medium, at the bedside in a hospice, witnessing what's going on, I'm seeing the family member or family members in the room. I'm aware of the person, the spirit or soul of the person up and out of the body already. I'm aware of other room coming to get them, because no one ever leaves without someone coming to meet them. That's one thing I determined when I was there. Every single death that I witnessed, another spirit, someone was there with them to greet them and take them aside. But the thing is, when you're open like that, the spirit world tries to come to you. And I had a few times where I have them trying to communicate with me, and I'm like thinking, I really can't do this here. Because
I can't tell them that right now.
really, I'm so sorry, but I can't do that. And that's the part for people that would be the believers. That is a bit of a shame that this is not something that's more mainstream and accepted. But it's just there's just such a wide variance of believers and not believers. And then if you start doing something like this, like who's certified to do it and at a level that they're going to do it right, as opposed to some who just get a glimpse of something. So I do understand a little bit of the doubt that comes into the minds of people. But just through the mediumship, like especially within hospice, you have a heightened sense of sensitivity. So even without the mediumship working necessarily, it's just about being in a place to connect with people on a level where they are during their time of grief and during their time of loss or anticipatory grief prior to loss. So, I mean, it's all, in the end, it's all tough in its own way.
Yeah.
Very healing.
I was curious, could you share a story even about having your own experiences with family coming to you? I mean, does that randomly happen to you, where a family member of your own would just come through and have a message for you?
I have a few family members. I especially have one grandmother who is very strong with me a lot. And she was that way with me on earth as well. I lost her when I was very young, but she very much someone full of love, very giving, but very much like, you're doing it wrong, she tells you you're doing it wrong. And even now on earth, there are times when I might be in the midst of something or doing something, and I'll get that feeling of her being right beside me. And I'm like, and I can just get that feeling like, no, okay, got it. But they do come through if you sit and take the time to open up to them, because I have some uncles in the other world as well that I've opened up to and asked them to step close. And I'm aware of the communication. I'm aware of the connection of them being around me when I allow myself to be open to them. And I just really believe that, you know, those that loved us, I honestly believe that they spend more time around us than we think. But because so many people are either unaware or not open to the possibility, they don't allow them to come in to assist them the way that they could. Because they really would still assist and help them with things.
Right.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to, as we wrap up, if someone wanted to reach out to you, how would they find you?
The best way is probably
You have a website, your email, tell me how people can find you.
It's probably the best. And that's just www.mediummaurice, my first name, .com. And through that, they can email me. They can find out services offered. They can find out about the event, like that event I have coming up with Forever Family. I have a gallery coming up in June as well, June 27th in Deerfield. Everything's on there pretty much in the classes I teach. I mean, I enjoy what I do at this point, so it's amazing.
That is wonderful. And I'm really glad that you were able to fit me into your tight schedule. I know you are in high demand these days.
It's all good. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Mary Lisa.
Awesome. So I want to thank you very much for stepping in, and we will see where this goes. But looking forward to the next demonstration that you do in June. They are always fun to go to. And I just love watching people go, oh, yeah, yes, I can take that. And then getting more and more specific. So it's a lot of fun to watch. And it's always interesting to see who it is that comes through. And I'm always amazed at the details with which you're able to identify the people or help them identify who it is that's talking to you. So thank you very much for your time and energy. I appreciate you. I love you. I am so glad we did this. So I will talk with you soon.
All right. Thank you so much for the opportunity today. I really appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you for listening to the Hemp Del Sol podcast. Explore our wide range of organic products at hempdelsol.com. That's HEMPDELSOUL.com or contact 954-854-1039.